so wet, we didn't really get much chance to stand around and look at the palace. It's not really standing around and looking weather, is it? But hopefully those of you that wanted to get photos have got something to take away. Remind you of your ridiculously wet afternoon. But if you weren't with me, you might not have heard me saying that Buckingham Palace is one of 3 official residences of the British monarch. This is where the Queen lives during the week. Normally at weekends she goes to Windsor Castle, which, like Buckingham Palace, is an official residence. So that means that the Queen doesn't own Buckingham Palace. It's not her private property. She can't sell it. And she can't sell Windsor Castle either. They're what's known as official residences, so they belong to the people, to the nation. We allow the royal family to live in these official homes. They keep them in trust for the nation. So you could say that Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle belong to Abdul and to me and to anyone who pays income tax here in the United Kingdom. There are about 770 rooms altogether, quite big. And Queen Victoria, our present Queen's great-great-grandmother, was the first member of the royal family to use Buckingham Palace as a home. She and Prince Albert, after their marriage in 1840, brought up their family, their 9 children here. So this is the monarch's official home in central London. The Queen is at home this afternoon because the Royal Standard was flying from the mast above the palace. So she was at home. When she leaves for Windsor, the Royal Standard will fly there as soon as she arrives within the castle precincts, and it will be the Union flag that's flying above the palace. Now, to our left, we have part of the Wellington Barracks. This is where the 5 regiments of Hill Guards live. The soldiers who stand guard outside the royal palaces. Normally they're in their bearskins, the fur hats, their scarlet tunics. I did see 4 soldiers there, but they were a visiting regiment, rifles. But normally it will be soldiers of the Welsh, Scots, Irish, Grenadier and Coldstream Guards who stand sentry outside the royal palaces. They are fully trained soldiers. If you come to a guard change at all, there is a scheduled guard change at Buckingham Palace tomorrow morning at 11. If you come to see the guard change, you're watching real soldiers, very highly qualified, highly trained in the army. When they're not deployed elsewhere, when they're back at barracks here in central London, they get to take part in ceremonial duties like the guard change. So now, coming up through central Westminster, somewhere here in the room on the right, we'll be passing St James's Park Tube Station. And we might have just passed it, can't see, probably you can't see either. But I'll try and describe things so that if you can't see them, you might be able to imagine them. St James's Park Tube Station, a building above it is very famous because it was London's first skyscraper, an Art Deco structure built at the same time as Victoria Coach Station, but in the shape of a cross, and one of the first high rises here in central London. Now, just ahead of us, I can clearly see Westminster Abbey. The church in the west, that's what Westminster means. Now, the first building to stand on the site where we see the Abbey today was a Benedictine monastery built by one of our last Saxon kings, Edward the Confessor. That was back at the beginning of the 11th century. Today, what we can see here to the right, the West Towers, are 17th century. The next section of the Abbey, on our right-hand side, up to the north door, is the work of Richard II, king in the 14th century. And then as we approach the north door, which is the entry that you go in Gothic masterpiece. Sorry, Henry III's Gothic masterpiece, built in the 13th century, the 1200s. Henry III of England went to Paris. He saw masterpieces like Notre Dame Cathedral under construction, and he wanted to bring Notre Dame back to London. He was building a shrine for his ancestor, Edward the Confessor, and he wanted to bring Notre Dame back here. He loved it so much. He couldn't do that, and so he was busy drawing what he saw being built, so that he could send the illustrations back to his stonemasons, and they built a copy. This is Parliament Square. We've got all arms of the state around us here. The Supreme Court of the United Kingdom over to our left. Government departments, Her Majesty's Revenue and Income Tax Office. Ahead of us, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. To the right, we have the Houses of Parliament, and behind us we have Westminster Abbey Church. This part of town, the city of Westminster, is very much associated with royalty, the church, Parliament and government. And here in Parliament Square, we're right at the centre of that. So as we come round the square, if you look to the right-hand side, you'll see the lawn area to our right has statues around it. Around a dozen statues, all but one of them are men. Probably the most famous, the most recognisable figure is that of Sir Winston Churchill, up to the right-hand side, just ahead of us. He's gazing across the street towards the House of Commons, where he gave so many of his famous speeches. The large complex of buildings ahead of us, but over to the right, if you can see anything of it, is the Houses of Parliament. This stands on the site of the original Saxon Palace of Westminster, where our Saxon kings and later kings lived up to the time of Henry VIII. So Winston Churchill now on our right, the Houses of Parliament, the House of Commons to our left. You might have noticed the Elizabeth Tower, completely shrouded in scaffolding. It's over to the left. I see one of the clock faces when we're on the clipper, if we can see through the gloom. There's a 5-year-long programme of restoration work going on here to repair damage going back to the Second World War. Now looking on the right-hand side, we've got Nelson Mandela of South Africa on the corner. A few yards farther in is Mahatma Gandhi of India. And then the only female statue. So Mandela to our right, and over to the left-hand side, outside the Supreme Court, is Abraham Lincoln, just here under the trees to the left. We're just going to go around again to see the rest of what there is. Elizabeth Tower to the left. Now when we see the clock face from the clipper, we're looking at what many people call Big Ben. In fact, Big Ben is the bell, the great bell of Westminster, housed in the belfry above the clock face. But that will be a little clearer from the river. We've still got a couple of years of this work going on. The Queen drove to the Houses of Parliament last Monday to open a new session of Parliament. And so we are now in a new parliamentary session. And now to our left, we have the north door of the Abbey, a Gothic masterpiece, the work of Henry III's stonemason, and copied from, of course, the first and very best example of medieval Gothic architecture, Notre Dame of Paris. The only female statue in Parliament Square, Abraham Lincoln's here to the left, by the way, but the only female statue is now to our right. You might just be able to see Millicent Fawcett. Millicent was one of the leaders of the suffragist movement in the first years of the 20th century. And this was a campaign to secure the vote for women. Finally, in February of 1918, the Act of Representation of the People became law, and women of a particular age, and only those who owned property, were finally legally able to vote. A few years later, this was widened to all women over the age of 21 at the time. So this is Whitehall, Street of Government. The white stone monument just ahead of us, to the right in the middle of the road, is our National War Memorial, the Cenotaph. It's from here that the Queen leads the National Service of Remembrance every year on the Sunday closest to Armistice Day, 11th of November. And now we look left through the security gates to Downing Street. At number 10, the official residence of the British Prime Minister. This street, as I said, is called Whitehall. It takes its name from Henry VIII's palace, which once stood here. There's very little of the Whitehall Palace left. But Henry VIII moved up Whitehall from Westminster Palace to the Whitehall Palace, which was the largest royal palace in Europe. To our left, in a few yards, we will pass the parade ground, the tilt yard, as it was, the jousting yard of Henry VIII's Whitehall Palace. That's on the left-hand side. It's just about all there is to see now of Whitehall Palace grounds. It's now an official entrance to Buckingham Palace and St James's Palace. And this is normally where we'll see the mounted guard on duty. If you look very carefully as we move through the traffic lights to the left, you'll see the soldiers on horseback. They're undercover at the moment in the little buildings, in the little shelters. And then between the two little buildings, look through the central arch to Horse Guards Parade, which was the tilt yard, the jousting yard for Whitehall Palace. It's a parade ground today. Henry VIII was of jousting tournaments on Mountain Guard there on the left. And of course in jousting, the two participants pass either side of the barrier, known as a tilt. They keep the right hand free to draw their lance or sword, because they're laden down with armour, and they pass each other on the left-hand side. It's from this that we actually drive. The rule of the road here is to keep left, to drive on the left-hand side. That's why it dates from Henry VIII's jousting tournament. Now ahead of this, coming into Trafalgar Square, right at the centre of London. This is the geographic centre of the capital, Trafalgar Square, and at the middle of Trafalgar Square there's a tall column. At the top of the column, 172 feet in the air, is a statue of one of our most famous naval commanders. And this is Admiral Horatio Nelson, who was victorious at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805. Other notable victories at sea of Nelson and his fleet fought during the Napoleonic Wars, the campaign against Napoleon Bonaparte, were the Battle of Cape St. Vincent, the Battle of Copenhagen, and the Battle of the Nile. But the Battle of Trafalgar was probably the most notorious victory, although at Trafalgar, Nelson was fatally wounded. His body was transported back to London aboard HMS Victory, his redoubtable warship, which you can see in the historic dockyard at Portsmouth, where Nelson's fleet was based. Today it's a tourist attraction. It's certainly a very interesting vessel to visit. And Nelson was accorded a state funeral in St. Paul's Cathedral, which we will be passing a little later on our tour. So, Trafalgar Square is generally acknowledged to be the geographic centre of London, and it's from here that our licensed black cab drivers do the knowledge. The knowledge is, or the knowledge of the thousands of routes, many thousands of buildings, streets, theatres, cinemas, hotels, churches, attractions, within a 6-mile radius, a 6-mile distance of Trafalgar Square. On average, it takes between 2 and 5 years to get the licence to become a London black cab driver, and we have around 24,000 of them on the streets of London. Very recently, our black cabs have been supplemented by a fleet of 2,000 electric cabs, the world's first. So the slightly longer black cabs are the electric ones, and there's about 2,000 of them, there will be more. If you're buying a black cab now, it has to be an electric one. Canada House, the High Commission for Canada, to our right. In a moment, Abdul's going to be turning right and taking us up Lower Regent Street to Piccadilly Circus. At the top of Lower Regent Street on Piccadilly Circus, you will see the largest electronic advertising billboard in Europe. Piccadilly Circus stands at the middle of London's theatre and entertainment district, based in and around Shaftesbury Avenue, Leicester Square and Covent Garden. It's where the largest concentration of London theatres is located. So if you're going to the theatre while you're here, chances are you'll be visiting one somewhere in and around this area. So here in the city of Westminster, it's Parliament, government, royalty, the church at Westminster Abbey, and it's entertainment as well. So at the top of Lower Regent Street, look ahead, to the right. I'm sure it will brighten our outlook because we're going to see this electronic billboard. It's divided into several screens and it's very clever, it's very smart. It can detect how many different languages, which languages are being spoken close to you, and whether most people around it within a certain proximity are male or female, and then it can angle its advertising according to that. That's clever, isn't it? Can anybody actually see the bright lights of Piccadilly Circus just ahead of us? I think it's coming into view through the blue. Are you coming down? We have a statue, quite a well-known one. It's a statue of Eros to our right, in a few yards, at the centre of Piccadilly Circus. It was the world's first statue to be built entirely of aluminium. To the left, just check where we are. To the left, at the traffic lights, we have the street closed Piccadilly. If we turn left onto it, we would come to the Ritz Hotel, Green Park, Fortnum and Mason, the Queen's Grocers, all located along Piccadilly. Second left, as we move around the circus, is Regent Street itself. It's one of central London's most elegant shopping thoroughfares. I can see the bright lights of Piccadilly Circus ahead. If you've got a free evening, you can come to the ticket booth in Leicester Square. But there are other cheaper ticket booths, you know, for last minute theatre ticket deals. You can check out what's available for the same evening and get yourself a good deal. Piccadilly to the left. Really lovely shopping arcades along Piccadilly, the Georgian style ones. So you can shop undercover. They're very elegant, 18th century originally. The Piccadilly and the Burlington arcades. And for any fans of art, the Royal Academy of Art is also along Piccadilly. So that's the thoroughfare now immediately to our left. Had we turned along it, it would finish at Green Park, but there's a lot to see and enjoy between here and there along Piccadilly. Eros, the statue, just coming up to the right-hand side in the centre of the roundabout. And across to our right, the other side of Eros, is the entertainment district, Chinatown, also a very short distance from here. The largest concentration of London theatres is in and around the area ahead of us and across to our right. There's a couple also down at Victoria, the Victoria Palace and the Apollo Victoria, but they are at a bit of a distance from the main concentration here. And this is an area where a lot of income is earned. You know, the West End stage, theatres, cinemas, pubs, bars, restaurants, cafes, Chinatown, the Covent Garden area, beautiful pedestrianised part of central London, based in and around the old Covent Garden fruit and vegetable market hall. Lovely boutiques, very little traffic, most of the streets there are pedestrianised now, so really, really nice to explore, and to explore safely and comfortably. So a very interesting area, lots of entertainment, nice places to eat. Chinatown, always very, very colourful at any time of year. Originally, the Chinese community was established in East London. And Chinatown here in London is the biggest Chinatown in the UK. But it's certainly very colourful, lots of fabulous, lovely places to eat if you like your Chinese food. So Leicester Square straight ahead now, and we're going to to head down to the right, down the Haymarket, back into Trafalgar Square, the centre of London. Film premieres are normally held in Leicester Square, at the cinemas in Leicester Square. Do the celebrities come in their finery to attend these events, of course? Hopefully they get better weather than we're getting this afternoon. It couldn't be much worse, could it, really? Or when the... should I say? Never mind. Hopefully everybody's managing to smile through the tears. I have to say, even for us, this is very heavy. Very, very heavy. But we've had a very warm, very, very dry couple of years. But when it's rained, on the rare occasions it's rained actually, the rain has certainly come down. We've had hours of very heavy rain, so we've had a couple of weeks worth in a matter of hours, and then nothing, and then it comes again. So everything seems to be very extreme weather at the moment. So Canada House to the right. The National Art Gallery is ahead of us at the top of Trafalgar Square on our left. And if anybody can see it, there's a rather beautiful statue on the plinth just ahead of us. It's a winged bull known as a Lamassu. The original winged bull like this is a deity guarding the ancient city of Nineveh. And recently was completely destroyed by terrorists in Mosul, in Iraq. This is a wonderful exhibit of what we call the fourth plinth. We have works of art displayed here to the public for 2 years at a time. So they're temporary exhibits, and in a few months, the winged bull here, as we're turning down, it's to our left, it's beautiful. The colour is beautiful. And it's the work of an Iraqi artist in exile. So here's the winged bull now on our left, a Lamassu. Now, the original was destroyed, and so this artist recreated it to go on the temporary plinth here in Trafalgar Square in the centre of London. And the point about this one is that it's made from thousands of crushed cans. Cans which once contained date syrup. And this was a very important industry in Iraq, which, rather like the original Lamassu, thousands of years old, was completely destroyed in a very short time. I think it looks spectacular there on the top side of Trafalgar Square. Very majestic, and the colours are just superb. But incredibly, made from about 9,000 crushed cans, which once contained date syrup. So coming round Trafalgar Square, the centre of London, the National Gallery, the grand building with columns and the dome at the centre up to our left, on the north side of the square. Look at the magnificent lions surrounding the base of Nelson's Column, 172 feet high. We're going to head east now. We're going to cross town, east, towards the area where London began. So relatively speaking, comparatively speaking, this part of town is fairly recent. Westminster was first settled by Saxons, and they arrived in the British Isles from the area of mainland Europe that today we would probably refer to, but we would call Germany, northern Germany, Saxony. They arrived here in the 6th century AD. But long before that, the Romans had been here, and a couple of miles farther east had built a settlement known as Londinia. So that's the area we're heading to now. Lovely Georgian church to the left-hand side. This is the Church of St. Martin's in the Fields, an 18th century building. It fronts onto Trafalgar Square. and as you can see stands at right angles with the National Gallery. It's famous for its musical recitals. It's open for Christian worship every day, of course, but it's very particularly famous for its musical recitals and for its work with London's homeless. Now to our right, I think we're by, I'm struggling to see, but I think we're by Charing Cross Station on the right hand side, and this is another of Northern's many commuter rail stations. From here the trains cross the Thames heading south and then go out into the suburbs of south and southeast of London. If you notice the monument outside Charing Cross Station, this is known as an Eleanor Cross. They were put in place to mark the funeral route of a medieval queen, Eleanor of Castile, who died at Stamford in Lincolnshire in the northeast of England. Everywhere where her funeral procession overnighted, a monument like that one was left in place. So just here at Charing Cross was where the last overnight was spent before the funeral procession arrived at Westminster Abbey the following day. The Queen's Bank, Coutts on the left-hand side, one of the oldest banks in the world, established by a Scot, Thomas Coutts, in the 18th century. This is their global headquarters on the Strand here in central London. Part of the entertainment district is up to our left-hand side now. If you haven't been and had a look round it, do try and go. It's really good to explore. You're out of the traffic. Rather unusual stores and boutiques. I think it's going to be really late. And the Museum of Transport is also located in that area. Which used to house one of London's oldest fruit and vegetable markets, fresh food market. Zimbabwe House, the Visitor Information Centre and the Embassy for Zimbabwe on our left-hand side. we'll be passing probably the most luxurious hotel in central London, and this is the Strand. When we're on the river later, we'll see the Strand from the riverside. Savoy. So look out for the Savoy Hotel, opened in the late 1880s. So we'll see the entrance off the Strand, and it's worth taking a look at if you can see it. You might notice that any taxis approaching the Savoy Hotel off the Strand are actually being driven on what for us is the wrong side of the road. It's the only street in the United Kingdom where it's legal to drive on the right. And that's largely because of this sort of weather. So all the fashionable celebrities arriving at the Savoy was dropped off and they could go straight into the hotel's lobby. They didn't have to stand out in the pouring rain to cross the street like we've had to do today. So look out for the theatre where 9 to 5 is showing. Immediately before that, on the right hand side, is the entrance of the Strand to the Savoy Hotel. Favourite haunt of many celebrities and famous people since its opening in the late 19th century. WYCH. In Old English, this means Old City. Here we're at a point where Roman Londinium met Westminster. And ahead of us, in a few yards, if you can see in the middle of the road, there's a huge dragon facing us, the boundary marker. Bye-bye. Bye. The boundary marker from the city of Westminster into the city of London. To the left, we have a huge complex of Victorian courts. Law courts were very much a feature of the Victorian era. And this is all part of legal London. Here we have the Royal Courts of Justice, where civilian cases are heard. To the right, a small doorway by the crossing leads into Twinings Tea, one of the oldest businesses still trading in London, established in the 1700s. That's the world headquarters of Twinings, where you can sample hundreds of different varieties of tea. They have a lovely cafe and you can purchase tea there as well. But take note of the dragon just ahead of us in the middle of the road, if you can see him. This is Temple Bar. We're approaching a very important boundary between the city of Westminster and the city of London. The city of London ahead of us, as we pass the dragon, is completely independent, completely separate from the rest of London. So as we move past the dragon is facing us, we're entering the city, and coming to a city within a city, a totally independent area of town. This is where the Romans built Londinium 2,000 years ago, and today it's very much the hub of the UK's financial services industry. The Roman settlement in Londinium began as a fishing port, which covered an area of around 1 square mile. But it became very prosperous very quickly, and as it became more and more prosperous, merchants began to settle here. So trade and commerce came, and Londinium prospered even more and became more affluent. So money was important here then, 2,000 years ago. The pub called the Bank of England, the old bank on the left, was the original Bank of England. And today, 2,000 years later, this is still where money, trading is concentrated. Money was made within the walled city. This was the centre of money. To the west, in Westminster, was where the money was spent. But essentially, we're now in the area where money was made, and still is. The Bank of England, the government's bank, the stock exchange, Lloyd's of London, and hundreds of other financial institutions are located in this area of town. Historically, this also became an area of book printers, and until the 1990s was also where most of our national daily newspapers were printed. So it was the centre of the pen and ink industry. When Rupert Murdoch, the media tycoon, arrived in the early 90s, he closed all the print houses here on Fleet Street and moved them farther east, close to the Tower of London. In 1666, September of that year, a disastrous fire broke out in this area. It became known as the Great Fire of London. It destroyed most of London, as London existed back then. Around 20,000 buildings were razed to the ground during the 4-day blaze. So rebuilding had to take place very quickly. And ahead of us, at the top of the Ludgate Hill, we see a result of that rebuild in St Paul's Cathedral, the building with the dome. St Paul's Cathedral is like the church in the east as opposed to the church in the west at Westminster. It's also known as London's church. Old St Paul's, which stood on the same site before the Great Fire, was completely burned to the ground. And so rebuilding began as soon as the last of the fire's flames were extinguished. A coal tax was imposed on coal being brought into the port of London on the river. And this was how the funding, the money was found to rebuild St Paul's. An architect, Sir Christopher Wren, was commissioned by the Corporation of London, the local authority for the city, which still exists, and which is still the local council for the City of London area. And the King, he drew up designs immediately for the rebuild of St Paul's, and building began very quickly. St Paul's Cathedral took 35 years to construct. It was built for London by the people of London. It's an Anglican church, the second largest in the United Kingdom, after Liverpool's Anglican Cathedral in the northwest of England. And it is open to visitors. And actually, from tomorrow evening through the weekend, St Paul's Cathedral is going to be illuminated with a light show. If the rain clears and you feel like coming over this way, from 6:30 to 8:30, I think 9:30 on Saturday, the whole of the building will be illuminated with a pictorial display. They had a practice of this in the early hours of yesterday morning, and from the photographs it looks quite spectacular. You might want to come and see that. Also tomorrow night, Friday night, St Paul's is open to the public from 6:30 to 8:30, so there are extended opening hours for St Paul's tomorrow. It will be open to the public normal hours tomorrow from 8:30 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon, and then again from 6:30 to 8:30 tomorrow evening, if you'd like to visit. While you're there, you can climb 528 steps up the dome, the famous top picture on the roof of St Paul's. Something that was virtually unknown in this country at the time the cathedral was built. The style is known as English Baroque, and we don't have many examples of it. It wasn't very popular at the time because it was so radically different. But you can climb 528 steps and come out onto the viewing platform and Golden Gallery. There will be 365 feet above the ground. If you can see up to the top of the dome, you might see some very lucky people out in the pouring rain. At least we're sitting. I suppose that's a good thing for us. Don't have to climb all those steps. But here you can see the Great West Steps, the Great West Door, the main entrance. Not too simple. Built of white Portland stone, brought by ship from the south coast of England, along the English Channel and along the Thames. Now we look into the right as we move through the traffic lights, and you might catch a glimpse of the Millennium Footbridge, which links St Paul's Cathedral to the Tate Modern Art Gallery on the south bank of the river. And you didn't see it there, and you will see it from the clip on our travel session. In fact, we'll be going under the Millennium Bridge.
That's for you.
Yeah, so I don't know if that was for me or for Alex. For the second.
Well, he needs
Well,
you.
he has that. He has to give us contact to a friend. So I don't think I'll
administratively. It has its own local authority, the Corporation of London, and the Corporation of London is headed up by the Mayor, Lord Mayor of the city. In a couple of weeks' time, the 694th Lord Mayor of the City of London will be sworn into office. The Lord Mayor is in office for 1 year only, and it's an honorary role. That means it's unpaid. And heads up, the corporation promotes the facilities of the City of London across the globe. The Lord Mayor lives to the right in the Mansion House. The building with the columns to our right is the Mansion House, home and office of the Lord Mayor of the city. The Bank of England over to our left. You may have caught a glimpse of something of the London skyline alongside the Roman remains here, because we have considerable segments of the Roman wall which we're preserving here in the City of London. We also have an amphitheatre, Roman temple, Roman bathhouses, very much part of London's beginnings, London's story. The Roman invaders of the 1st century AD, 2,000 years ago, were the first Londoners, and we're very anxious to preserve everything that we unearth. When we're building new structures here in the city, often Roman artefacts are unearthed, or Roman remains, and these, when excavated, we preserve because they tell us a lot about the beginnings of our capital's story and history. If you see a police officer here within the city's boundaries, you might notice, as long as it's not raining too hard, that the uniform worn by the police officers of the City of London Police Force are very different to the uniforms worn by the Metropolitan Police officers, the police force for the rest of London. They're a completely independent force, and they're based at 3 stations throughout the city. We're going to go over London Bridge shortly. Let's hope it's not falling down. That's all we need. Actually, I don't think there's any danger of that. It's been standing since 1973. It's a modern bridge. It's not very interesting, but when we cross London Bridge, if you look over to the left, you'll see a much more attractive, much more interesting bridge, a Tower Bridge. So get ready to look at that. And we'll also get a glimpse of Christopher Wren's monument to the Great Fire of London. Some of you might have already spotted that. But if you look left, start looking to the left, and in a few yards, you'll see the tall column, which is Wren's Memorial to the Great Fire, just here to the left. Platform at the top of the monument, as it's called. Again, very good views across the city. So now London Bridge. We're on London Bridge, probably the 5th bridge crossing to stand on this side. The Romans built the first, which would have been on the crossing. And there to the left is a much more famous bridge, which that's Tower Bridge. We're going to be crossing over Tower Bridge shortly. The tides of the River Thames are measured here at London Bridge. And had we crossed London Bridge in the 17th century, particularly 16th and 17th centuries, an earlier bridge, we would have been greeted by the sight of many heads, 7 heads on spikes along the bridge. These were the heads of enemies of our kings who were executed after being put on trial and found guilty of charges against them. And they were put on spikes on London Bridge, on display to the public as a warning about what could happen to them if they did the same sort of thing. Just on our left here, we've got a dragon, a silver dragon. The boundary marker, the dragon here has his back to us, so we're leaving the city. There's one over to the right, but I really can't see it on the right-hand side of the road, on the pavement.
Rep store.
We're going to see London Bridge on the River Thames.
Well, we know it's right near London Bridge.
So to our left, as we come along by London Bridge Station, we have a large warehouse, as it used to be. It's now a shopping mall, apartments, nice cafes, pubs, bars, nice and warm, nice and dry, out of the rain, very cosy, on a cold wind, very wet October afternoon. This is Hayes Galleria now. It was built as Hayes Wharf. And this is where supplies of fresh foods and commodities that were brought into the Pool of London, the docks complex, were taken off ships and put into store.
Company all the time.
So this is where London's food supplies were stored, having been brought in from all over the world by ship. Some of London's most expensive residential accommodation is alongside the river. A lot of the buildings which line the Thames are protected, they're listed because of their architectural and historic importance. So there are lots of restrictions about what can be done with them. And in the case of Great protected buildings, both the interior and the exterior have to be kept in the original style. For Grade 2 protected buildings, the exterior must be kept in its original style, but there's a lot more flexibility with what can be done with the interior. at the traffic lights, very shortly, we're going to be turning left and heading over Tower Bridge. Abdul will then be dropping us off when we reach the Tower of London, and from there we'll do the short walk down to the Tower Millennium Pier, from where we'll be taking the Clipper on the river. We will have a few minutes of free time, so you might want to go and get yourselves a hot drink or just try and dry off a little undercover if possible, or take photos, and then we'll be regrouping to walk down to the pier to board the Clipper. So we'll walk together from where Abdul drops us off to a point which will also be where we regroup, ready to board our Clipper. Now, on board the Clipper, you can sit wherever you like. It's a private charter just for us. There is a very small tea bar. You'll be able to buy a limited range of snacks and drinks on board, and there is also a small bathroom facility too.
I mean, that, all right.
But in our few minutes of free time, you might want to go and see if you can get a hot drink, just something to warm up with, and then we'll be heading off.
All right.
Yeah.
Tower Bridge straight ahead. The bridge is opened several times a day, most days in the year. There's only one day in the year when Tower Bridge, the bastions, do not open, and that's on the day of the London Marathon, every April. It's on the course to the London Marathon, so the runners actually come across Tower Bridge, and so that's the one day of the year when it's not open. But if you happen to have a luxury yacht that you'd like to bring along the Thames, hopefully in better weather, you need to make a booking to have the bridge opened. It won't cost you anything, but you do need to make a booking so that the bascules, the arms of the bridge will be opened as you arrive, and that will give you access into the area of the Thames known as the Pool of London. We'll see that on our left. It's the stretch of the Thames between Tower Bridge, where we are now, and London Bridge, which is just a little further along, which we crossed over a few minutes ago, to our left. Now we're going to see all of this from the Clipper when we're actually on the river. Right, you can see the bridge open. But it only takes a couple of minutes for the bascules to be raised to allow tall shipping to come through. Now, during Queen Victoria's reign, this stretch of the River Thames was part of the busiest and the biggest complex of docks in the world. This really came to an end after the Second World War. There was a lot of destruction, particularly on the east side of London, and particularly to the docks. After the Second World War, the docks were completely rebuilt farther east at the Thames estuary, where the River Thames flows out into the North Sea. So very shortly, we will be taking one of the Clippers. There's one actually at the pier now, down to our left-hand side. We'll be coming under Tower Bridge a short distance, and then back west to the London Eye, which is where, on to the main part of our tour at least, we'll finish. The Tower of London, the Norman fortress, 11th century, is now to our left-hand side. The Tower of London was built to the east of London as a military fortification, a defensive structure, and 20 miles west of London a similar structure was built at Windsor. Today we know it as Windsor Castle. So So the Tower of London here was built to defend London from the east, and Windsor Castle was built to defend London from the west. Both were built by the Norman invaders, the last successful invaders of the British Isles, back at the end of the 11th century. This was when William, Duke of Normandy, William the Conqueror, became King of England, King William I. You can see the skyline of 21st century London as well, the heart of the city, alongside the Roman remains, the modern buildings constructed in the late 20th and the first half of the 21st century, part of the City of London, the business and finance district, but also the area where London began 2,000 years ago. The tower here on our left has served many purposes. Built as a military fortification, a royal palace. It's also where our money was made. Parts of it have been used as an observatory. It was London's first zoo.
It's really fun. It's a bus stop.
An arsenal was established here. And of course, most infamously, this was a prison and a place of terror, particularly during the reign of King Henry VIII, when 3 of our Tudor queens, 2 of them his wives, were executed within the walls of the Tower complex. Here by the tower. When you get off the bus, you will just group on the pavement to the left. Make sure, please, you have all your belongings with you, because we're going to continue this part of the tour on the clicker. As soon as we're all safely on the pavement, we'll
Thank
move
you.
on. Take great care.
Bit of a tricky drive, that.
Downstairs.